Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend's GF off for obsessing over my chest? On mobile, so sorry for any typos. I 22F met my best friend, we'll call him Joe 23EM in college, which we both recently graduated from. Joe has a girlfriend, Jane 24F, who he's been with since high school. Jane and I get along well and share a lot of interests, but she can overstep boundaries occasionally. Important to the story is that I am the Grand Chancellor of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee. My cup size barely reaches a 32A, I'm as flat as can be. I used to be very insecure about this, but I've since come to love myself and my natural figure. When I was more insecure, I confided in Jane about this after a bad date. Jane suggested breast implants, which I immediately shut it down, since the thought of altering my body like that made me immediately uncomfortable. That was well over a year ago. Joe's birthday party was last Saturday, and I brought my boyfriend along with Joe's permission since he wanted to meet my friends. The party was great and there was plenty to drink, so we were a little tipsy when I made a joke about my chest to my boyfriend, not realizing that anyone else could hear us over the music. I make these jokes every so often and they're usually kind of corny, like, this soda's flatter than I am. Apparently, Jane heard the joke and started talking about breast plants again, saying that her sister got some and she was really happy. I said, oh, good for her, and tried to go back to talking to my boyfriend, but Jane didn't drop it. She said that she could recommend me her sister's plastic surgeon and that she could vouch for his work. I tried to be polite and told her that wasn't necessary, that I was comfortable with how I looked. Jane shrugged and said, if you say so. Later, my boyfriend admitted that the exchange really rubbed him the wrong way, since he loves my body and didn't want me feeling insecure. I told him that Jane was just drunk and that we should let it go. I also asked that he not let the exchange impact his opinion of Joe, since I really wanted them to get along. We left it alone until yesterday. Jane texted me with the info for the plastic surgeon she mentioned and told me they offered free consultations. I replied that I didn't appreciate her sending me the info when I told her it wasn't necessary, and she said that she was only trying to help, since she knew how insecure I was. I reminded her that even when I was at my lowest, I didn't want to look into breast implants, and that it felt like she was implying that I should want to change my body. I also told her that it was weird for her to be so fixated on this. Jane took offense to this and insisted that she was only looking out for me. At this point, work got busy and I couldn't reply, nor did I really want to. Here's where I might be the asshole. Joe called me after work yesterday and asked for my side of the story, since apparently Jane had been ranting to him all day. I explained that she way overstepped, and I didn't appreciate her attempts to help, since they felt more like a slap in the face than a genuine attempt at kindness. I also sent him the text exchange and told him about the exchange at the party, since he was in the bathroom when it happened. Joe was pissed and promised to talk to Jane about it, and we hung up. Less than an hour later, Jane started spamming my phone, accusing me of trying to break her and Joe up. I ignored it at first, but then she threatened to tell my boyfriend that I was cheating on him, and saying that I didn't deserve him anyway. I told her that she was a crazy bitch for escalating such a stupid situation, and suggested that if she couldn't respect the boundaries of her partner's friends, she was messing up her own relationship. I immediately reached out to both Joe and my boyfriend, explaining the situation with the text exchange, and Joe was especially surprised by her reaction, as apparently they'd only had a brief and calm conversation about dropping the topic and apologizing to me. Mutual friends and reaching out now and saying that I should have kept the issue between me and Jane, that I didn't need to involve Joe and put a strain on their relationship. Part of me thinks they're right, but I didn't consider that when Joe asked for my side of the story. Joe is also mad that I called his girlfriend a crazy bitch, which I will confess was a shitty thing to say. So, am I the a-hole for potentially breaking up my friend and his GF over my boobs? Story 2, am I the a-hole for purchasing a home with a pool and triggering my MIL? 37F here. I'm a mother to 7-year-old twins, boy and a girl, and a 5-year-old girl. My husband and I decided to move back to our hometown so we could be closer to both of our families. Our hometown is a lazy beach town, and I've been living cities since college. It's not my ideal location, if I'm being honest, but I am excited about being outdoors and in the water more. My husband and I made a deal that since I agreed to move and find a new job, we'd get a house with a pool, which is something I've wanted since I was a kid. It's not actually that serious, but it's something I've been excited about since we decided to move. My husband and I found the perfect house, and we're currently in escrow. The house is walking distance from the beach, and my parents, each of my kids, get their own room, and there's a pool with a water slide. We're all so excited. Some important context is that my husband was actually the oldest of 4 kids, and the only girl in the family who was also the baby passed away when she was 11. She was swimming with her friends in a lake, got caught in some shrubbery, and drowned. It was tragic for the entire family, and I don't get the sense that my MIL has ever recovered. My husband's home is filled with pictures of his little sister. The kid's bedroom is basically a shrine to her, and my MIL gets teary anytime she sees one of my 2 daughters. My MIL has always been kind to me and is a wonderful grandmother, and so it's difficult seeing her so sad. Yesterday, my husband and I were on the FaceTiming with his parents, and I sent them pictures of the house we're moving into. My MIL's face went white, and she asked how we could possibly move into a house with a pool with 3 young children. I explained that my kids are all great swimmers, that we've told them there's absolutely no swimming without one of us there, and that we're getting a gate with a lock and alarm installed around the pool so they can't get into it without us. My MIL started crying and saying that drowning is the leading cause of death for young people. She also said she couldn't believe we'd be so reckless with the lives of our 3 beautiful children. My husband tried to calm her down, but she was furious and hung up the phone. My husband now feels terrible and says we should have thought more about moving into a house with a pool. He's not worried about something happening to our kids because we're going to take the proper precautions. He's worried about his mom's mental health. He says his parents will never be able to come over now because his mom will be watching the kids and the pool obsessively. He also says we're probably not going to be able to do holidays or parties at our house because his mom will be even more anxious with all her young grandkids near the pool. I've seen her anxiety around kids in the water firsthand. Once we were at a family reunion and there was a lazy river at the hotel, and my 4-year-old nephew, who couldn't swim, was wearing a life vest and flipped over for about 2 seconds. My MIL jumped in, she was wearing a dress and heels, and grabbed him right away. Please tell me if I'm a total asshole, but I don't think we were wrong to purchase a house with a pool. My MIL has serious trauma, which I understand, but if we listen to all of her worries, our kids wouldn't be able to do anything. For example, our son wants to take surfing lessons, and my MIL is against this because she thinks so much time in the ocean is dangerous. We also put our youngest daughter in swim lessons very early, a bit over a year old, because we want her to be safe and comfortable in the water. My MIL said this was way too young and dangerous, and I said it was a great teacher and I was in the water during the lessons, but my MIL was still furious. All of this to say, maybe we were a bit insensitive moving into a house with a pool, but she's triggered by so much of what we do. Am I the a-hole? Any advice would be appreciated. Story 3, I saw my childhood bully for the first time in 17 years, and it was cathartic. From kindergarten all the way to 8th grade, I went to the same school. During those 9 years, I had a bully. I was the only kid who was nice to him at first, but because all he knew was how to assert dominance, he treated me like crap while also being really overly clingy and attached to me because I was the closest thing he had to a real friend. He was generally extremely insecure, making overly performative displays of wealth, toughness, and overall coolness. For example, anytime someone would make him mad, he'd talk out loud about how badly he wanted to punch them, or had a need to punch someone in general. He didn't grow much during those 9 years. He'd take steps forward, then the same amount of steps back. Age 17 was the last time I talked to him. 13 was the last time I saw him in person. This past month, Now, with both of us at 30, our classmate who was with us those whole 9 years passed away, and we both showed up to the funeral. He showed up wearing a streetwear t-shirt, a couple of gold chains, and a diamond-encrusted pendant, all while actively flexing his tatted-up left forearm to show off his ink. I was worried that seeing him again, especially on the grounds of our old parish, which included our school, would bring back a bunch of bad memories of him tormenting me. But I also wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt that he had grown since then. So I didn't avoid him. I just tried to talk to him like an old friend. And that's what I got. I generally try my best to live and let go of my past judgmental tendencies, and let people have their lifestyles as long as they don't harm me, etc. But seeing that my childhood bully, who was a constant toxic presence for 9 formative years of my life, had no qualms about showing off his wealth and status at a funeral for someone he knew personally, was certainly an experience.